9 months ago, a particular brother, which I will target the title or somewhere, made a video. In that video, he discussed two individuals, and one of the individuals was Habib Jifri. And in that video, his concern was about statements Habib said about the Uyghur Muslims in China. In that video, I commented that Habib had issued a clarification and an apology in certain terms on his website, and I thought maybe this brother wasn't aware, so I made him more aware. And 9 months later, he's made a video about Habib Jifri, and although he discusses about other issues he has with him, he also again repeats his issues regarding the Uyghur issue. I'll just quickly summarize what I understand to my best of my ability. Habib says that some of the facts and figures he got wrong in his original speech, but they were facts and figures that will relate to him. But he apologizes for the facts and figures, and when his team knew, those were rectified on social media platforms. Furthermore, he says that his views are not what people translated and changed around, and I'll read his views on a statement that he's released on his website. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, praise be to Allah, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon our Master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. There have been repeated requests for clarifications about my position regarding the injustice against our Uyghur brothers and sisters. May Allah relieve their distress and lift harm from them. The requests have been made in the wake of a campaign of lies and distortions propagated by our brothers who have transgressed against us from brotherhood, and some from amongst who deem themselves to follow the Salaf, as well as other Islamist organizations and groups. May Allah rectify us all. Various well-known media platforms have been complicit in this multilingual campaign by taking advantage, as this is a general habit of the pain experienced by Muslims and injustice perpetrated against them for their own side battles. The issue arose after I answered a question about whether the coronavirus outbreak in China was Allah's revenge for the treatment of the Uyghurs in China. The question was posted in a university forum in Egypt. In my answer, I was clear about acknowledging the injustice perpetrated against our Uyghur brothers and sisters, while also affirming my refusal to declare a divine punishment against China. In the course of my answer, I made a mistake about percentage of Muslims in East Pakistan region and the percentage among the Uyghur population. I corrected this mistake through social media platforms after private correspondence and public remarks from some Dagestani brothers. In light of the aforementioned campaigns as well as requests for clarification, I would like to restate my position on the issue and hope it suffices for those who want to understand. Our Uyghur brothers and sisters have and continue to suffer severe injustice against their rights. These injustices are unacceptable by any religion and unacceptable by humanity. The situation in the past decades has been more severe than it is now. Gradual improvements have been occurred in comparison to the past, and this may allow progress on the issue, but any such improvement is still unsatisfactory and not all injustices have been lifted. This is the view that has been expressed by some non-politically aligned Uyghur brothers with whom we have contact, and is one I agree with. In any case, the jurists have a principle. Passing judgment on something is contingent on having a correct conceptualization of it. In view of this, it is clear that it is difficult for the one who is honest with himself to claim he has attained a decisive comprehension of an issue in all its details. For this reason, cautious patience is advised in issuing decisive judgments and opinions about the truth of an issue. Among the injustices propagated against the Uyghurs, violations against their basic religious rights relating to their mosques, prayers, fasting, family commitments, child upbringing, and protecting their Muslim identity. These heinous injustices did not start off as a religious war, but a political one. China, despite its official rejection of religions, turns a blind eye to Muslims, Christians, and Buddhists of other nationalities practicing their religious rights. It allows mosques to be built and expanded, Islamic schools to be opened, and permits the establishment of religious rights in many provinces where there are no political movements that demand secession or political independence from the state. However, political movements with such political demands are treated with religious repression and tightened security measures regardless of the religion they belong to. The Chinese experience with the Tibetan Buddhists for the last half a century is one example. One of the most important reasons for this political war today is to employ the Uyghur grievances in the political and economical battle between the West and China. The East Turkestan region, Xinjiang, is at the center of China's global economic endeavor, and it presents an opportunity for Western states to take advantage of the Uyghur grievance by employing it for their own ends. Some Western countries and international organizations claims to champion human rights in the Uyghur case, but stop short of providing a real solution to their plight. They only further provoke and encourage the clash between the Uyghurs and the state, increasing the Uyghur tragedy in the process. These same states and organizations pay no attention to the consequences of their positions. This type of behavior between states in the international arena is not new. The examples of Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Bosnia, Burma, Syria, Rwanda, Western and Central African countries are just a few hundreds of thousands of are just a few examples. Hundreds of thousands of refugees in camps around the world are living witnesses to the crimes of the countries of the developed world. The suffering of the Uyghur brothers and sisters has also been amplified through the exploitation of their grievances by Islamist groups and organizations for their own local and regional conflicts. The outcome of this exploitation was many young Uyghurs joining the likes of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and other such criminal outfits. Hundreds of these young Uyghurs were killed in Afghanistan, Syria, and Iraq under the banners of these groups. Ironically, these groups who claim to support the Uyghur cause and save their lives from the Chinese persecution were the very same groups pushing Uyghurs towards their own death. The leader of the Islamist Dagestan Islamist Party, Hassan Makhdoom, was killed in Al-Qaeda training camp on the Afghan border after he pledged allegiance to Mullah Omar, in only one example of such tampering with the fate of Muslim people and their grievances. To Allah we direct our complaints. The exploitation of people's pain and grievances, trading in their blood, manipulating and employing the Ummah's causes in power rivalries, local, regional, and international disputes is an abhorrent affair that has neither a religious nor humane basis. This sad reality is recurring in all our causes by people of our own kind. It has only resulted in harming and destroying those very causes. It is not just the Uyghurs' grievances that are being manipulated. The destruction of the Palestinian cause in the hearts of the younger generation is another example. Its manipulation has occurred through it becoming the play of election campaigns of Islamist organizations, and they're using it as a tool to apply pressure on governments for decades and a means of youth recruitment. The fate of Afghanistan and Somalia for more than a quarter of a century, with all the resulting atrocities, is another example. Similar issues of exploitation put the Muslim identity of future generations in the Balkans and the risk of disappearing. In Europe and the West, devout Muslim congregations have been used by such organizations as tools in the pursuit of power or as instruments of pressure. The use of humanitarian charities as fronts for ideological organizations has wasted the rights of destitute and the afflicted and exploited the sincerity of the youth who volunteer in those efforts. These examples have existed in our Ummah and were undertaken by our own. They falsely attributed their actions to Allah's true religion and His merciful rule. They were knowingly or unknowingly serving the Ummah's adversaries, but not the Ummah itself. In closing, these are the positions that have been distorted and misinterpreted in the media efforts of our brothers who have transgressed against us. Allah's help is so. He is the one who we place our hopes in to relieve distress and lift calamity and rectify the situation we find ourselves in. May Allah send peace and blessings upon our Master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and upon his family and companions, and peace, praise, Praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds. That was a long statement, and I wanted to read it all. And some words might be mumbled or rushed or maybe not pronounced correctly, but I did want to read the entire statement, and I will link the entire statement also, and you can see the statement for yourself. And since if I make a mistake and then I correct my mistake, and then later on you find out I made a mistake, and then you call me out on my mistake, but I tell you that I've already rectified it, then you can no longer carry on going about speaking about that mistake unless you have seen my rectification. And you can say whatever you want to warm people up against him or things like this, but if you make a mistake and then you apologize, do you expect anyone to keep bringing that mistake up? Or and there's been plenty of mistakes in scholars that people could keep bringing up, but since that mistake, since they repented and changed, they've written books upon books and added so much to the nation. But if people were just stuck on that one mistake, then no one would benefit at all. And regarding sisi and other issues you have with him, this isn't what I was. This wasn't the purpose of this video. This video was 9 months in the making because I thought you would read the statement and then speak, but it seems like you haven't, and you continue to speak about the bigger comments that Habib made, even though he has rectified his position.